Here's a fish. Oh, nice chunk. Put the raptors down right here. Oh yeah, look at the black lipstick she's got on. That's pretty cool. Something you see from time to time, and that's the way you want them to eat a bait right there. Now look at that fish. I want you to look at just how white and pale that fish is. This water's dirty where we're at, but it's early spring and fish are really just starting to pull up from deeper water, and that fish right there is a prime example of what they'll look like when they first got up shallow and starting to warm up a little bit and move around. When they do that, man, that can be a great time of year to take a moving bait, take a crankbait, and get up there and start catching them. She had ate it good. Let's see, I about got it wiggled out. There we go. That's the square bill Rocco. But those fish just getting up there shallow, chasing around bait. The water's super warm for this time of year. It's like 60 degrees, abnormally warm. And you can take a bait that's aggressive like Rocco and be able to catch some chunks. We're in the back of a major creek arm, big flat, and just a big expansive flat. There is a creek channel in here, but to be honest, a lot of it is kind of silted in with the water level being low like it is, and so you don't have a real defined creek channel until you get way back there into it. Out here, it's just, man, it's a big flat. There's some scattered pieces of wood, scattered stumps and stuff here and there, little scattered patches of gravel, but there's also some short grass starting to grow. And so anything that you can find different to key on, especially paying attention with your eyes, watching the bait fish, watching for any of those type of visual clues. Because to be honest, looking at my electronics on 360, I see tons of fish in most every direction on the boat. With live, I see fish moving around all different kinds of places, and that's because there are so many fish in a place like this time of year when you have these kind of conditions. The water's warm back here, considerably warmer than the main lake, and everything is in here. Bass, crappie, catfish, carp, drum, everything that's in this lake is in the back of this creek right now warming up, and the ones that are shad eaters are back here eating bait fish. So you can't really use your electronics too terribly much to really key in on, hey, that's a bass, I need to fish for that fish. You kind of just have to fan cast around, and cover's good, but they don't necessarily even need cover at this point. Biggin. Dude, that fish didn't, look at the mud I just kicked up. Stay on there, fish. I mean, I literally just backed up because it was so shallow, kicking up dirt. And dude, that fish come up and choked it. I ain't been fishing shallow enough. Look at that big old thing. Come here. Dude, that is awesome. That fish was up in no water at all, just trying to warm up, getting up there super, super shallow. I love doing that in these flats in the springtime, man. It can be kind of weird because you're not fishing around a lot of cover. You're not fishing around, a lot of targets or anything. You're just throwing and covering water. It's really important to have baits that you got confidence in, that will attract a bite when you get around them. That Rocco certainly one that I have a lot of confidence in. Man, that is such a fun way to catch them. Dirt shallow, springtime, getting back in those flats, catching big ones. If you're coming to a place looking to try to find these areas, for me, what I do, I set my shallow water highlight out to 5 feet. And so everything from 5 foot less is going to be red. And so at that point, I'm looking for big areas that are red. So I'm looking for those big areas of 5 foot or less. And if it's got a channel, if it's got some little breaks, some little subtle drops and turns and stuff in it, those are places that I am going to try to focus in on. And sometimes that's where they'll be. Sometimes, man, they're just out in the flat. You just find them where they are, it seems like. Fishing through these areas, if I get a bite, I'm immediately going to hit the button, send my raptors down to hold, right where I'm at, because I have so many times got in a place where I've caught 2 or 3 fish back to back. Sometimes I've caught 15 or 20 fish back to back. So being able to hold the boat still and make a repetitive cast at the same exact spot or just in the similar area can be really key. Fishing this type of stuff like this, there's a handful of baits, bait styles especially, that I really like. A lipless crankbait is certainly one that comes to mind. My favorite is the Rashi Vibe, but shallow running crankbaits, whether that's DT stuff, from a DT4, DT6, if it's a little bit deeper, course, everything in the OG line, Slim, Tiny, Rocco, all of those OG baits have a place when you're fishing like this. Bladed jigs work well like this. I've caught fish on a swim jig in places like this, especially if the water's a little bit cleaner. And then if you've got some more, you know, good heavy pieces of cover, even though it may be scattered, fishing a spinner bait right in that stuff can definitely be a good way to pick up a big one from time to time. But generally speaking, those moving baits that are good for covering, you know, flat areas, your lipless crankbait, bladed jigs, shallow running crankbaits, that's the stuff I'm gonna lean on the most. There we go. There we go. Dude, that fish was so shallow. Just kind of pumping that bait along. That's what I like to do a lot of times when I'm up there real shallow. There's a lot of little short grass. There's a lot of debris on the bottom. You'll see that, you know, this time of year where you're catching leaves and stuff. And so with whatever it is, I'll kind of pop it, clean it, pop it, clean it. That's what I was doing when that fish there bit. It's a great way to trigger bites as well as, you know, kind of keeping your bait cleaned off in the process.